I'll keep this quick, man. I've talked about it. I already said that once. I gotta set this up with a story that I remember. You guys ever have like deep, dark memories that you either suppress or you don't remember for the longest time, and then all of a sudden they hit you like a wave?
Many.
So that happened to me, ironically enough, as I'm walking this Memorial Wellness track. I don't know what the hell was going on this hour.
Was this before or after the Fairfield?
This was after
situation?
Because all I could think about was the hotel once I realized that. So as I was thinking about, I've been in military mode for the last 30 hours because of this Dan Carlin hardcore history podcast, which I'll bring up in a second. But it reminded me of this story that I and it's just sometimes you got to laugh at yourself. So when I was in high school, I was gung-ho about trying to go to the Naval Academy. So basically and this is the funniest thing about it, my two options for exiting high school were either Naval Academy or Lansing Community College. Think about if I'm like at a college decision table and there's a Naval Academy hat and a Shooting Stars hat. So what you have to do to go to the Naval Academy is you have to get I don't remember exactly what the word is called. Basically, you have to get a sign off from a government
congressman or somebody.
So basically, I went through this whole process. Like I had hair down to my shoulders and I buzzed it to a buzz cut, like for this interview. I had to do like a fitness test for it, which I blew out of the water, by the way. Fitness test for it. I like put together a whole resume for it. Prepped for like probably a month beforehand. Made it through the first wave of where it's just like submit your resumes, answer these questions, and we'll dwindle this down. So it's like probably 30 people submitted for that. We get dwindled down to the final 5 that are going to be in-person interviews. So like I said, day before I buzzed my whole hair off. I'm getting ready for this interview. I'm so nerved up. It's me and these 4 other kids. They're all like wearing like what looks like $2,000 suits. I'm in like a shirt and tie. Like I just felt like a fish out of water. So I'm next up to go into this interview room where there's like 10 different people about to interview me, like officers in the Navy, members of like I don't even remember. It was just a very intimidating setup. So as I'm about to go in, the kid in front of me comes out, and he's chopping it up, like laughing it up with this interviewer. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm looking at this guy. He's like built like a football player. Looks like he just came off the football field earlier that day. And they're chopping it up. Turns out it's Navy's linebacker coach. So think about this. There's 5 of us going for one of these spots. 5 of us going for it. And this kid comes out and he's chopping it up with the linebackers coach. And he's like, yeah, hey, I can't wait to have you come down for the visit. Yeah, you did a great job in there. Like, I can't wait to see you in the fall. Like, we're ready to go, man. I can't wait to hit the ground running with you in fall camp. So I'm hearing this. I'm like, okay, so there's only one of these spots. This kid is literally a star football player. I think it was Warren De La Salle, actually. And, like, I'm hearing him chop it up with this interviewer and, like, basically saying, dude, you got this. You got the job. Like, we're just going to interview these 4 other idiots real quick. But you got it because you're going to actually be able to commit and play for our football team, which is a little more important than me, who's like, I'm walking in there like Connor Stallions. I want to be a manager on your football team, whereas a stud football player. So they're chopping up, they're laughing. I look at this kid next to me, and he has the same look on his face. Like, what the heck are we doing right now? So they finally finish chopping it up, and the guy goes, "All right, who's next? Like, come on in." And I'm next. I'm just like thinking, what the hell am I wasting my time here for? And it felt like there's a great scene in the Hunger Games where Katniss, right before she goes in the Hunger Games, she's in this tube and they capture Lenny Kravitz and like kill him right before she's going to the Hunger Games. That's basically what happened to me in this situation where my whole hopes and dreams and the realization that I got to learn Shooting Stars language is all flying through my brain as I'm about to go do this 10-person interview. And basically, long story short, I ended up at LCC. So I don't know. Again, that was just kind of a weird story that I remembered. It was just the funny moment of me looking at this kid and going, "We're fucked. What are we even doing this for?" So I don't know. Does that bring up any thoughts to you guys? It's kind of a.
I was going to say
story,
you could have. I mean, that kind of set you up to fail a little bit. You could have played off of that. Walked in and been like, I don't know how I'm going to follow that up, and maybe like made it into a comedic moment.
Right.
And then maybe that would have helped you out.
No chance, man. Hey, they care about football there. That's all they care about. That kid could have had a 1.0 GPA. He's probably still getting in over me.
Right.
So
you were legit. You were going to go to the Navy, huh?
I mean, you still would have had who knows? I would have had a 1 in 4 chance if this superstar football player didn't show up. I was infatuated with Keenan Reynolds and the triple option and Ken Niumatalolo, like Connor Stallions' assistant. I would have been buddies with Connor Stallions. Who knows? Maybe I would have been his little protege at Navy. Who knows? I only wanted to go there. I didn't care to go to like, because I remember that in the interview, they're like, yeah, hey, just in case it doesn't work out, there's other options. You could go, join the Navy, and then we can reevaluate. You got a lot better chance to get in after a year in the Navy. And I'm just thinking to myself, dude, I'm not doing that.
Recruiting pitch right there, baby.
Right.
So no, I mean, it was like a year obsession, and it didn't work out. Who knows if I really had a good chance at it or not?
I have no real thoughts other than the fact that I can't believe I didn't know this story. Number one, it's awesome. This has just made the podcast for me, man. Thanks. I love it.
Yeah, it was fun it was not fun in the moment, but it's fun looking. I remember you think about it like after the interview. Hey, how'd it go? Oh yeah, it went great. Yeah, it went great. Like that's how you say after every interview.
Yeah, I feel like it went great, but I have no shot at getting this because the guy ahead of me clearly is already signed to the football team.
I just remember housing a pound of Culvers after it. Like, I think just a total sorrow meal.
Go ahead.
No, so anyway, so Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. That was a long-winded way to get to this.
Yeah,
so I've been listening to this podcast, man. It is awesome. So to me, there's two big series that I like. There's Ghost of the Ostfront, which is all about the Russian and German World War II battles. And then there's Supernova in the East, which is basically all about World War II from the Japanese perspective. And I'm just telling you, it's the best. Like, it's not even an audiobook, it's a podcast, but it's like this guy is so talented. And how he reads it, like, it's mind-blowing. I can't stop listening to it. I burned through a 30-hour, podcast series called Supernova in the East about Japan, like I was saying. I burned through it in a week. I'm just loving everything about it. And just to give you guys a little, taste, I just wanted to share a couple, the few, fast facts I kind of learned, just real briefly from this, story. So think about this. Think about Sean McDermott. I remember he said the dumb thing where he's like, think about how committed the 9/11 guys were when they bombed. You talk about true commitment. It was the Japanese during World War II. The Germans surrendered 1.5 million troops during World War II. Japan had zero. They did not surrender. Literally zero organized units surrendered. To me, that's just mind-boggling. They really were all about Japan. They had honor. They would never surrender. And going into that, they would tend to treat U.S. troops who surrender. And here's the thing. All sides of this war were terrible to the other sides. Atrocities all around, U.S. included. But one story that really stuck out to me, and honestly, it's a good time for now because we just got the last football game of the year yesterday in the Super Bowl. So the Bataan Death March, which was in the Philippines, pure hell. I mean, 70 miles march. They made all the U.S. troops take off their helmets, take off their gear, so they would just get beat on by the sun. No water. 70-mile walk. And after you'd already been in the Philippines where you got no supplies for months, we're going to make you take this walk. So they take this walk, and one of the players has on this Notre Dame class ring. And I mean, they were looting off of these soldiers, wisely, like the officers in the Japanese army. So they stick a bayonet to this guy's neck and say, hey, give me that ring. He won't take off the ring. I'd rather die than give up this ring. Finally, they get it from him. They steal it. 2 days later, this guy's name is Mario Tonelli. He was a Notre Dame football player throughout the 30s, and most notably in 1937, he got drafted by the Chicago Cardinals in the draft. So he ends up getting drafted to the war, goes to the war. He's in the Bataan Death March. This English-speaking officer comes up to him, goes, hey, and this is a lot of Japanese officers throughout the war as well. He goes, hey, I studied at USC in 1937. I remember that game-winning touchdown you scored against USC. Here's your ring back. Don't make sure you hide it because they're going to steal it from you. To me, that's just the weirdest, wildest story of how football, in this non-death march, where 20,000 casualties were made, this guy remembered this football player, how awesome he was, and did him kind of a solid. I just thought that was kind of a wild little, pretty cool story about the war, and it also makes you go why the hell are we even fighting each other?
Right.
When you look back. But I got a lot more, but I've talked enough this podcast, so I don't know. I just would recommend that show more than just about anything. Have you guys heard about it before?
No.
I've seen some people post some clips from it, and then I have a few friends at work always talk about listening to different history podcasts like those ones. And 30 hours. I don't know if I could get through 30 hours because I struggled to get through even Band of Brothers.
Right.
Even though Band of Brothers was incredible and I'd watch it again, like you guys know my thoughts on like long shows and stuff like that. So like, you know, if it was like a 1 3-hour podcast, yeah, I would do that. But then you wouldn't get all those kind of inside stories. So you'd miss on some of the details. Yeah, I think that kind of stuff, you know, we just think like, oh, there was a war and we won. Like hearing all the details and stuff like that is pretty crazy, probably.
Oh, that's truly the greatest generation. I mean, you think about the soldiers all the way around. I mean, you said it. I mean, you know, the Japanese did surprise attack Pearl Harbor. Does he talk about that in there at all?
Yeah. Well, what's nuts about Pearl Harbor is I love how, like, again, he's just such a dynamic speaker and storyteller. He's talking about how Pearl Harbor happens, right, and they quote unquote wipe out the U.S.'s entire fleet.
Right.
The thing that was a key part of Pearl Harbor, and think about the Battle of Midway. The Battle of Midway was a big deal because one, it's this island midway in the supply lines, but two, because Japan lost 3 aircraft carriers. So all of U.S.'s aircraft carriers, some people think it's maybe a conspiracy, just happened to be out of port when Pearl Harbor got bombed. So they took out a lot of old equipment that was pre-World War I, like naval ships, and all the aircraft carriers survived. So it really wasn't quite that death blow that we thought. That's just one little thing about Pearl Harbor that I thought was kind of interesting. He calls aircraft carriers the queens on the chessboard of this battle. So, yeah, that's one thing just he had about Pearl Harbor. But and you're right, like Matt, like you said, like the war happened, we move on. That's why I like the Pacific side of the war. When you think of World War II, you think about the Nazis, you think about Germany, you think about Europe, you think about the Western Front. To me, I think like they truly were in hell in these Philippines, you know, Solomon Islands, all these different places. Like that's not where you wanted to be. Jungle rot, snakes, spiders, zero supplies because you're right next to Japan. It's very hard to get supplies to you. Last thing, I'm going to stop talking, I promise. Last thing, wild fact. So why we won the war is we had the place humming. I mean, think about the poster of who is it that's flexing? It's like a famous, the girl, like
Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah. And we were outproducing them like 20 to 1 in terms of supplies. Like think about how Japan was not necessarily set up for this war. So Mitsubishi plant was obviously a big producer for them during the war. There was no airfield by this Mitsubishi plant that was producing all their planes. And apparently to pull planes on the road, it's too rough on them. So they had to make the planes in this Mitsubishi plant, then have oxen pull it 25 miles to an airfield. Wow. Like, isn't that the most like 1942 thing you've ever heard? Like, they're so advanced that they're building fighter planes, but yet they're also utilizing oxen to move these precious planes.
That's amazing. Yeah, you know, even a Michigan connection because the auto plant down in Warren, Michigan, they transferred over to build tanks for the U.S. I mean, the U.S. really did step up during the war on the home front and the soldiers as well, and salute to all of them for sure. That's good stuff. I mean, you're on a roll tonight. I don't know what caffeine you're on.
I'm done talking. You guys go now. We're already going a little long.
We're long. I'm going to condense my thoughts.
I'm going to put my word count. So go ahead.
I'll just bring up one here. It's kind of old news, but baseball season's going to be coming up soon. I finally got a chance on Netflix to watch The Comeback, the 2004 Boston Red Sox. If you haven't seen it and you're a baseball fan, highly, highly recommend it. It's tremendously well done. All the inside stuff on the year before, setting the stage, and then that comeback year and bringing on Francona as the manager, which was key, and some of the other things. But full 3 thumbs up on that. Definitely, if you're a baseball fan and haven't seen it yet, check it out on Netflix. One other thing, Oscars are coming up. My wife was out of town. I decided to pop in a movie. I watched on Peacock a movie. It's nominated for an Oscar, Conclave. It's one of those movies. It's about the Pope dying and behind the scenes of the Cardinals, you know, getting together to elect a new Pope. And some of these Catholic movies about the Vatican really intrigue me. You know, there's a lot of it based on truth, but it's fiction, like the Da Vinci Code. That was really, really good, you know. And this kind of reminded me of the Da Vinci Code. All I'll say is the acting was tremendous. The whole plot was really, really good, and it had a surprise twist at the end that you're definitely you're going to go, whoa, really? So that's the 2 I have right there. I'll keep it short.
And what, that's nominated for Best Picture or something?
Best Picture, and I think some Best Actors nominations as well.
Gotcha.
Stanley Tucci's in it, John Lithgow, Ralph Fiennes. It's really, really well done.
Nice.
I already threw out mine. Have either of you guys seen Gladiator 2? I haven't. It's been getting bad. It's been getting bad reviews from people I trust. I'm worried about it. Were either of you guys big Gladiator fans? Because it's making me very scared about.
Yeah, the original. I like the original.
Yeah, the original is one of my favorite movies. I mean, in high school and college, we watched that movie over and over and over. Awesome. And, you know, it was, I think that's one of those that they didn't need to do a second one, especially this long after. I always thought it was weird Denzel in that movie. I just think that's so strange. No but yeah, sense. Like now that it's streaming, I thought like, all right, one of these nights I'll sit down and watch it, but I don't think I'm going to. I watched a movie that will not be nominated for an Oscar. That's for sure. I'm sure you guys have seen ads or promos. Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon's new movie, You're Cordially Invited.
Okay.
It's was it on Prime or Netflix? I think it's on Prime, but I kept seeing promos for it. I like Will Ferrell a lot. I think he's hilarious. I usually like all of his movies. So I was like, you know what? Him and Reese Witherspoon, this might actually be pretty funny, you know? I only made it about halfway through and I was dozing off. And it's one of those, my wife said she was, you know, she'd want to finish it. It was kind of funny. We've talked about it before with like nudity sometimes or like sex scenes that like, all right, yeah, you know, it's cool, but they're, you know, we're not offended, but sometimes it can be a little too much.
Right.
Surprisingly, this movie, the language, it was an F word, every other word from Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon and some of the other actors, to the point that my wife and I even looked at each other and we were like, this is like a little excessive. Like it was taken away from like the jokes.
Right.
It was just, I mean, it's rated R, but you know, that doesn't mean anything anymore nowadays. It was just like, it was getting to, I was like, this isn't even, why are they saying the F word like so much? It was kind of weird.
It's wild to me because I thought Will Ferrell was kind of going the other way, like the Daddy's Home, where it's kind of PG humor that is still actually kind of funny. That's wild that he made this turn. What is it about? You're Cordially Invited. What is that about?
Well, so I only made it halfway through, so I don't know how it ends. But so his daughter is getting married. Reese Witherspoon's sister is getting married. They both book. There's an island. They both book the same island. Like they both booked the same venue for the wedding. Right. And there's only supposed to be one wedding because the person who originally booked it for Will Ferrell's sister didn't actually write it down. So then Reese Witherspoon got it booked. They show up to the same venue and have to like figure out how we're going to do a wedding where there's only supposed to be one wedding.
Did they charge them $250 and not give it back to them?
Something like that.
I mean, it doesn't sound like I love Will Ferrell. I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score, 47%. So it sounds like about right.
Yeah, it was like I said, I like Will Ferrell a lot, and we were like just thinking. We had a night where we're like, let's watch a movie, and I was like, this Will Ferrell, Reese Witherspoon, let's pop it on. It might be, it was just crazy. So yeah, watch it if you want to see you know what it's all about. But I would not highly recommend it. I don't want anyone to be like, I'm not taking any more of Matt's. I will finish it off with I finished the Kobe documentary, Making of a Legend, the CNN, the 3-part. That would be one I would highly recommend, even if you aren't kind of like the Red Sox one, like you said, Ted. Yeah. If you're just a basketball fan, you don't have to be necessarily a Kobe fan, but they really do a good job of covering his whole career, the good and the bad, the rise and the fall, and then the redemption after his career. You know, how he was with his girls, his daughters, and then obviously the crash at the end. And they talked to a lot of people who knew him in Italy. I forgot. You know, obviously he won the Oscar for Dear Basketball. He wrote that essay to basketball announcing his retirement, and then he turned that into a short film. I forgot that John Williams wrote the score for that.
Oh, wow.
And the animator for it, like I had to go back and watch it because I hadn't watched it in a while. The animator for it was the animator for Little Mermaid, Hercules, some of the Lion King, like one of Disney's main animators. And they said one of his assistant, one of his main assistants is in there quite a bit. And a couple other people, Gary Vitti, the Lakers like famous trainer. Yeah. They said that Kobe was famous for just cold calling people. he just flat out called John Williams. He just flat out called this animator. And I mean, obviously you're Kobe Bryant, you can do that. But like they said that's just how this dude was wired. When he decided that he was going to make this into a film or, a short film, who do you call? You call the best of the best,
He's all in.
It's wild. So
I've never seen it.
I would recommend it.
I haven't seen it. I should. How long is it? Like
3 1-hour episodes, I think.
No, not the documentary. I need to watch it as well. Actually, my mom was like intrigued by it, which I thought was kind of. She like mentioned it to me. Have you watched it yet? Like, wow, you're watching it.
Sure.
So I need to. But the short film, is it like
5
minutes? I should
minutes.
just look it up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You could probably find it somewhere.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's like 5-6 minutes long because it's just like his essay, but it won an Oscar. It's really good.
Yeah.
So,
before we wrap this up, just one real quick thing. You guys know what an SNL slappy I am. It is a big year, right? For this. Yeah, well, it's a big year. The 50th anniversary is coming up, I think, a week down the road, and they just had a 2-hour special of all the musical guests. I haven't even seen it yet. It's sitting on my DVR, but I did finally get a chance to watch the entire SNL with Timothée Chalamet, and I rewatched him singing Dylan's Outlaw Blues, and I've watched it over and over. It's tremendous, just absolutely tremendous. Look it up on YouTube, Outlaw Blues by him. Tremendous. I mean, it's awesome.
Chalamet is on an unreal heater right now. I mean, at his rate, he'll be flipping hosting the Super Bowl halftime show next year.
Right.
Have you not seen maybe you've given a review of this already, maybe now think of the Saturday Night Live movie that came out?
No.
That's probably the first episode of Saturday Night Live. I'm surprised that wasn't
you forgot. You forgot. My
Netflix
account, it wouldn't let me watch it.
That's right. Sorry about bringing up throwing salt on old wounds, man.
Yeah, that hurts.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Well, I'm waiting for that review. Whenever that review does come, I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I have liked with all this, the anniversary and all that, they're showing a lot of like the big people, their audition tapes. Like I've seen a lot of audition tapes pop up on Twitter, clips. Yep. That's kind of interesting to see some of the big names, their auditions.
Absolutely.
They've had a big year, man. SNL's kind of been back, it feels like, the last year that they kind of weathered what felt like maybe they might be shutting it down. I feel like they made it through. Now they're just SNL. I think they're back being good again.
Yeah, I think who knows? They might be just gearing up to have Lorne Michaels' finale. He's made it 50 years. He might just step aside. There's been a lot of other names that have been bandied about that would take over for him, like Tina Fey and some others if they continue it on. But the big show, the big anniversary show is coming up February 16th. It's a 2-hour special on a Sunday night, and prior to that, they're going to have the replay of the very first SNL with George Carlin as the host. So if you want to see that, it's going to be really good. Okay, that's all I got, fellas, on Tedertainment. This has been an interesting show.
Is the pool even open anymore at your hotel?
No, it's open. Yeah, it's open till 10 o'clock. I'm on Central Time here. I might take a dip after this and hop in. It's actually a good setup. It's Holiday Inn Express, beautiful, right on Gulf Breeze. I mean, it's awesome, right on the ocean.
When are you back?
Tomorrow. I fly back tomorrow afternoon. Yeah. All right. Well, I got to come back to that crappy snow. I guess a big storm's coming in.
Hammered with snow right when you get here.
I know. That's what I heard. Have to get the snowblower out. I'll blow snow with my tan, my Florida tan.
There you go.